managed to engage itself and Kenya in this region. We can say President Uhuru has been quite, a master of soft power, and his popularity I've had him, called that, master of soft power, it's suddenly with our neighbors. With our neighbors. We are talking about in this context, the community. He's tried, in his second time, especially, in his trying to build relationships among the countries around Kenya. And looking at that, is the person who's going to step into these shoes able to continue with that legacy? The reason why I laughed when you said President Uhuru Kenyatta has been a master of soft power. I wasn't so sure until you clarified that it's with our neighbors, because internally, right, for President Uhuru, this particular parent was very hard on his kids, but very soft on the neighborhood kids. The neighborhood kids would actually call him a king, a good man, but at home, he's actually a very hard on his own children. But to be fair, but you do agree that, at a time where there was no semblance of, integration within the East African community, and it appeared that things were collapsing at that point. It was him who, after all these years of sport.
So if the Supreme Court makes that attempt, as they will definitely, if invited, we're not allowed in law to question that judgment. We may debate it, criticize it, but we cannot question the bindingness or determination by the Supreme Court. Kenyans need to know this, but of course at this stage, in terms of thinking sequentially, let the results be announced, let us capture the reaction of the political leaders, let us capture the reaction of the citizenry, at least for the citizenry and the political leaders saying, accept the declaration as announced today by Mr. Chebukati. If you have a doubt, we proceed to court, but let us accept the bindingness of Supreme Court opinion if we'll ever get there.
All right, of course, these are the possibilities that are guided by the supreme law in the country, that is
objective, I would say this is a solid thing in it for Kenya. I think one would be infrastructural development, which we have seen. He took it from Kibaki and ran with it. I think that's something we will give him. We will forever remember him for. And what I love best about the expressway, for example, is not just the road itself, but what it does to the mind of Kenyans. We never imagined it possible. We never imagined a road would actually be run over the other if you had not been out of this country. It never seemed possible. And so anytime you get into an argument, a discussion, the line key expressway, sneaks into a conversation. So it's opened us up to possibilities. And now when we are exposed to ordinary things, we want to look for an expressway kind of way of doing things. And I think for me, that's something we might not talk about much, but for me, it is really a big thing because now we are now open. Najivunia nchi yangu ya Kenya. Kenya kipenzi ni nchi ya ajabu. Yafurahisha na kupendeza. Nikitazama pembe zote za Kenya. Nchi ya Kenya, Kenya. Maendeleo tunazidi kupata. Nchi yetu yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kwa sababu
we continue to wait for the proceedings for the Bomas of Kenya to begin. We've just seen another motorcade arriving, and Rashid, we've been here for 5 hours, so this is our 5th hour as we wait for the announcement of the 5th president. For how long shall we have to wait?
Sidhani kama tutasubiri sana kama bwana anapozungumza wachanganuzi Samgitu kwamba kama ashafika sasa hivi na ni saa 10, basi inamaanisha muda wote kuanzia sasa IEBC itaweza kutekeleza majukumu yake kisheria na taifa liweze kujua ni yupi ambaye amepata kura nyingi zaidi. Kile kitu ambacho singependa nikizungumze sana ni kwamba situmie neno la kwamba kuna mmoja atashindwa, mmoja atabwagwa. Ni maneno ambayo yanatia chuki sana kwa wafuasi. Kwa tuseme tu mmoja amepata kura nyingi, alafu watatu wakapata kura chache, basi mwenye kura nyingi ndiye ambaye anastahili kupewa cheti na kuwa kiongozi. Kwa sababu sasa hivi hata ile sherehe kwa inaendelea maeneo tofauti baada ya viongozi wote wamefika, kidogo imetulia. Maana kwamba sasa hivi hamna sherehe itaendelea baada ya mwenyekiti kutangaza yule ambaye ameweza kupata idadi ya kura nyingi. Nafikiri ni siku ngumu sana kwa wale wagombea urais. Kushinda wale wafuasi wanaosubiri kujua nani atakuwa rais wa tano.
And the most interesting bit is that as you await the arrival of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, we say, okay, we waited to confirm if indeed that is him. Then it would be a rare occurrence because, Steve, in 2017, we didn't see all the presidential candidates at the Bomas of Kenya. In fact, the most significant candidate was the winner, that is Uhuru Kenyatta at that time. I'm talking about the August state general election. Should Raila Odinga make his way there, then this would be a historic moment where you find all the presidential candidates at the auditorium.
The Electoral Commission posts, the results on a website that says, look, any member of the public who cares to check and wants to tally the results, you can just go there, log on to the IBC website and check out the results. And we've seen, some, settled, peaceful election throughout. Yes, Madam.
I think Kenya's commitment to the OGP, among the 5 commitments they took, one of them being the open elections, really for me, this is one of those commitments that we actually have pushed. We worked on the open data bit of it. It's out there, it's working well. We still are struggling with open government entirely. There are still segments where, but largely when it comes to procurement, we've put everything out there. You can check who's what. Beneficial ownership is out there. You can check who owns what and who's doing what. On election, I think IBC have outdone themselves, gone out there. Everybody else who actually has got a question, you go to. So those when results will be amended. Like where students can actually, some of us have gone to colleges where you are told, it's not whether you are right or wrong when you're doing this exam, but you have to convince me as a lecturer that you have the diploma. Sometimes people actually negotiate votes outside of our voting process. But people can sit behind some window and decide this is also and so guess. IBC has decided that will not be the case. You cast your vote, we put it there. If you've got the capacity, count it. We go further from 34 years, which is 46,000 of them. We collect them to 292, including prisons and then the diaspora. Those are 292 constituencies now. And then from 292, then we have one.
Right.
From 34C.
Right.
And that's the basis upon which the elections are declared. So, largely, if anyone has cared to follow this, you would actually suspect where this is headed. So you might not be exactly the numbers, but you could see it's going. Because if it is not in the Form 34As, it doesn't find its way in the Form 34Bs, and therefore will not find its way to Form 34C.
All right.
So that's how it is. That's the results as declared at the polling station are final.
Right.
Sorry, let me just interrupt you a bit on the screen. I believe that is William Ruto's mother.
Grandmother?
Mother, this is his mother. She made her way to the Bomas of Kenya as well. It's possibly just a sign of confidence on the part of the UDA candidates team and family. And you also saw yesterday when he had there was a church service at Karen. his mom was also there alongside the other family members. So they're not yet, we can see we can not get into the auditorium. And so the family members are coming in, as you know, as much as they're coming, the person who Kenyans are now very keen on seeing is one of our Funda Chebukati, who's meant to make that greatly awaited announcement, so that Kenyans can know where we go from here. So yes, there you see her. She's being helped to go down the steps, so she's also made her way into the auditorium. And let's wait and see. I mean, it's a potentially proud moment for her as a mother.
Right.
But anyway, we can commentate on that after the results are out, so we do not get into any commercial conversation.
We're talking about, the issue of evolution of democracy, and democracies take time to reach where they reach, especially those we've seen, most mature democracies across the globe. At the end of the day, can we say confidently that with what we've witnessed in this election and the level of openness that has come out from the poll commission, that Kenya has crossed that age in the evolution of its electoral democracy? I think it's a continuous journey for us, and I keep making comparison in my mind with the Ugandan system in terms of how IEBC, for example, performed there. I remember the media in Uganda asking why they were not able to tell which constituencies had sent in results. And the Chebukati for there said, in a presidential election, we only have one constituency. So you begin to understand and appreciate how far we have come as a country, because we are able to see where numbers are coming from, and because you also have your 34A, you are able to make, and 34B, you're able to make comparisons. So in terms of strides at an elections, I think we have done well, and it can only get better. But in terms of democracy, I think a lot still needs to be done, because we still coalesce around tribes. We are not yet at a point where we look at things logically or ideologically. We still look at, which is politics anyway, because it's a game of numbers, so it's only logical that you identify with where the numbers are. But it seems to take more precedence over anything else, and for me that's the concern. This is not a Kenya, it's not unique to Kenya. Globally it happens, and I remember a few years ago, Belgium had a problem. They said without a government for I think over 200 days. And it was because they have three, if you're Kenyan, you would say three tribes. They have the German speakers, the French speakers, and the other one, I don't know the name. And I remember they were making fun. People tried to bring back the Iranian story, I think. I think Iran also had a similar situation, either Iran or Iraq. And every time we bring that, I think either Iran or Iraq did 188 days. So every time we brought that, they would be taken to Belgium. So if even where we borrowed democracy from, if those countries whom we hail, whom we look up to for guidance when it comes to matters democracy, still vote along tribal lines, I think we have a long way to go in terms of just shaping our politics and our democracy, and especially because for us, the ideology is the same. We are not yet developed to a point of being, having a variety of ideologies. We are just social democrats with different names, as Arnold said yesterday. If you look at the manifestos, what is number 3 for this one is number 1 for this other one, but it is the same. Some sort of convergence to the ideas they have. Yeah, but we have come a long way, and it's a beautiful story. I just pray for a day we get to the Tanzanian space where it doesn't matter. They do not look at each other in terms of tribes. They look at each other in terms of the party. You align to an ideology actually in terms of a party. And I think that we perhaps need to study them more than we study the West. All right. I'm still looking at the electoral democracy in the country. There's some people who say that there was some sort of wisdom in the move from just a simple majority of 50% plus one vote, but also requiring the winner to take a quarter of the vote in half of the counties, in this case, 24 counties, as a threshold for winning. What do you think was the wisdom behind this, and does it work?
Because for quite a long time, it is 1997.
Around we know it's a jubilation. Right, Kenyans will pour out onto the streets and markets and villages and start, and there are also speeches that are expected from all the candidates, whether indicating the direction they'll take. The president-elect obviously will present, and I recall 2013, a speech of magnanimity, promising to get Kenyans together, to work together. Obviously, at that time, there was indication from the other side that they would go to the Supreme Court. They're not satisfied with the election results, and that had been earlier, indicated. So it was sort of, at least, the difference between them and this year is that, as we've seen since Kenyans finished voting, and today we haven't had so much from the candidates.
Okay. What I'm looking for is the specific changes that you witnessed, because I remember in 2013 how Uhuru Kenyatta got into the auditorium is not the same way he left that auditorium. He was, of course, surrounded by security men. I don't know that they're women, and also different motorcade. He didn't ride in the same vehicle that he came in.
See, of course, if you look at the provisions of Article 138, Subarticle 10, that requires every seat to declare the results, and then you read it together with the provisions of Article 140 in terms of the timelines for swearing in. Of course, if the president-elect when the president-elect has been declared, his status then changes, he becomes, for all practical purposes, becomes the president. Only for purposes of transition, he has to be sworn in, and therefore the outgoing president remains the president until the handover of power officially has been completed. In this case, perhaps on 30th of August, if there is no petition. Now that means that, of course, post the announcement, you can expect enhanced security, change of protocol, and he'll be treated as the president. You can expect communication, and I think Bob explained correctly, communication will now follow formal channels. Right. Of course, as he walks out, he may want to give us a short speech. It is a Thanksgiving speech, but you can expect the protocol to change immediately post-announcement, and you can expect the outgoing president to gradually, minimize his contact with the public to allow the assumption of office, the committee of the assumption of office, right, to issue the official communication. I think by law, right now, the president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, has probably completed the transition and is only in State House for purpose of handing over power. Should there be an emergency, they will continue. If there's no exceptional emergency, he will be holding forth only for a limited period to facilitate the transition. So yes, in short, we'll have two presidents actively, one in office, one waiting to come in, but enjoying the same perks. And that's what it is.
And of course, the president-elect will have an office of the president-elect can issue formal communication.
Well, yeah, that's very true. And then again, since the time when Kenyans went into election on August 9th, and new officials, new politicians, new leaders voted into office, we know that now the issue of the incumbency, that's temporary, arises, becomes active. For example, right now, do you know that we do not have a sitting parliament? All right? We do not have the speakers of both houses, the Senate and the National Assembly. There are some things now that, factually speaking, the executive can do to the limitation of the law, and also anticipating that the arm of government, that is the legislature, will, according to program or schedule of law, get to be sworn into office. Now, these transitions that we witness, for example, the one we're witnessing through this election, puts to the fore one thing, that we are an organized and progressive democracy, something that other countries envy. So we as Kenyans actually should celebrate the fact that we can have such kind of peaceful transitions. And we are trusting that we're going to have a peaceful transition, and that whoever will be declared the winner will appreciate the fact that the majority have made their choice or their decision, and the fact that it will be prudent and an expectation, a great expectation of the people of Kenya, that insightful or incitement statements will not be made by that person who will not have succeeded to be elected, or politicians from allied parties within their coalitions. So I want to pleasantly imagine that we are going to learn from the history that we've had. And in this country, Gitugu will tell you this, that Kenyans are generally rational to a great extent until that rationality is stretched beyond elastic limits by the incitement of politicians. And so we need to appreciate that politicians have to know that upon their shoulders, imaginably strong, that Kenyans have placed so much hope, that they know that the duty and responsibility of nation building is placed upon those shoulders or the laps of our leaders. And so the entire world's eyes are upon this country. The eyes of the country are upon Bomas and Chebukati, and what kind of reactions will be drawn from various parts of the country once that announcement is made. We expect order, we expect civility, but I think we also expect good manners.
And I'm getting some reminders here that in August 2017, yes, Raila Odinga was not in the auditorium as the president-elect was being declared, but he had been there alongside his NASA principals hours before the announcement by IEBC, but left. Of course, they had also been pursuing some more time to allow for verification of results. That never happened, and eventually ended up at the Supreme Court, and that election was nullified. And Rashida being told that in 2013, something else also happened, because Uhuru Kenyatta at that time had already left cabinet. So had William Ruto, I remember, in 2013. But as soon as they were declared president-elect and deputy president-elect, they were afforded special security, obviously, but also their homes, both in Nairobi and upcountry, were secured, more security deployed to them. And of course, there was established the president-elect's office. It was the KICC. So maybe these are things that may happen, whether it's Raila Odinga or whether it's William Ruto. And if it is William Ruto, then it's interesting because he's already the deputy president. So having an office of the president-elect, we don't know where it will be situated. If it is regarding Gachagua being elected as deputy president-elect, he'll have a special office also and more security to his home or family. And the same would happen to Martha Karua if she's elected to be a deputy president-elect. The same sort of security would be beefed up at her home in Nairobi, but also in her upcountry home. And the same for Raila Odinga if he were to be announced the president-elect in this.
Na nafikiri Sam, hilo ni swala ambalo likizungumziwa sana wakati wa kampeni, kwamba wanasema kwamba tufanye kampeni na ikifika mahali tukishamaliza uchaguzi, matokeo yakipatikana, kwa utaratibu tuangalie yule ambaye atakuwa amepata wadhifa huo na yule aliyopo, kuwe na kule kuchukua mamlaka ama kupokeza mamlaka mwingine kwa njia ya utaratibu, maelewano, amani, bila tashwishi yote. Nafikiri ni swala ambalo Wakenya wanapenda kuliona. Lakini pia kwa taarifa ni kwamba ule msafara ambao tumeweza kuona wakati ule pale Bomas haukuwa msafara ambao tunapenda tarajia uwe ni wa mgombea wa urais kwa tiketi ya Azimio la Umoja wa Kenya Bwana Raila Amolo Odinga, lakini labda leo wote kutoka sasa tunatarajia kwamba msafara wake labda utakuwa unatoka maeneo ya Karen. Basi tukipata picha za moja kwa moja tutakueleza msafara huo unaelekea wapi. Lakini kwa sasa ni kwamba kwa taarifa zinazo ni kwamba yale magari yalikuwa tumeona yakiingia pale haukuwa ni msafara wake. Lakini pia kuna jambo moja ambalo mmeweza kulizungumzia na unapozungumza kuhusu masuala ya kuchukua mamlaka kwa ofisi na kadhalika. Tukiangalia ule mseto wa viongozi katika kambi zote mbili, tunaona kwamba pale kuna watu ambao ni weledi wa kazi, kwamba kuna mtu ambaye ako upande wa Azimio, lakini mtu aliye katika Kenya Kwanza anajua yule jamaa ni mzuri kwa masuala fulani, na kuna watu ambao wako Azimio wakiangalia upande wa Kenya Kwanza anajua ni mzuri. Tunaweza pata siasa komavu kwa yoyote akiingia